Okay. I'm Tavia, and for this week, I read Important Developments in Technology for Museum Education and Interpretation. So, the way that this reading was kind of outlined, I guess, there were six different technologies that they focused on, and they were broken into groups of three based on how long it would take to adopt that particular technology. So there is near term adoption, which is 1 year or less, um, mid-term adoption, which is 2 to 3 years, and then far term adoption, which is 4 to 5 years. So the ones that I decided to focus on, because there's six of them, are one of the near-term adoptions, which is makerspaces. So makerspaces, it kind of collaborates design, engineering, and creativity. So I guess for us, like the most popular examples would be like robotics or 3D modeling or even animation. And it was really interesting reading. So basically, it's a way to get visitors to create in the museum. So another way to be more interactive in the learning experience. And I thought that was really cool. And throughout the reading, it focused on every level of the museum, from people like the visitors or consumers to the curators for the museums, the people who would, I guess, do like the upkeep of the different like areas of the museum. But this particular educational technology is focused on visitors. And then the second one that I decided to pick out is a midterm adoption, and it's virtual reality, which is becoming like super popular now with like video games and movies. And it was similar in the way that museums would adopt virtual reality. So having the visitor kind of be placed in whatever the topic would be. So, like if you're in a history museum, kind of being placed in that time period that you're learning about, or a science museum, you're being placed in the lab. They talked a lot about how now, especially this like new generation coming up, all they know is digital media. And in order to kind of keep their attention and make it interesting, virtual reality is like the way that it's headed. So that was pretty cool. It was a really interesting report. So
Yes, I read Horizon 2017 K through 12 edition. And I think so did Stephanie.
yeah.
So a lot, and again, it was broken down into the time frames also: 1 year or less, 2 to 3 years, 4 to 5 years, which seems to be the format of the reports. Again, same with you, maker spaces. They talked about robotics, virtual reality, artificial technology, the Internet of Things, and analytics technology. One of the things that I found like really interesting was when they talked about artificial intelligence and how they can actually like use artificial intelligence in classrooms to facilitate discussions with children, and like not just facilitate it, but like analyze and evaluate that discussion to see if the children are actually learning what they're supposed to be learning. Like, to me, that's absolutely, crazy. Also, the maker spaces, like for children to invent their own robotics, or I think one project was to invent their own musical instruments, not only just the instrument, but how it makes noise. Do you know what I mean? To me, this is also interesting because I didn't grow up in this time frame. It's not like you said, all the learners are just digital. Also, virtual reality, virtual field trips. So kind of touching base with what you were talking about, virtual textbooks too. For even for us, that can affect us. So it was really cool to see all the stuff that they had one for it was analytical technologies, software that can actually look at a child's face and register their engagement and give feedback to the teacher on whether she's engaging the students, like in a lecture or, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I read the same report you did, the Horizon Reports 2017 K through 12 edition, and they talked about all those things. That, of course, it was broken down, like you guys said, into the 3 different categories based upon time. And I did find in my reading that virtual reality was, one of interest, and I think is a popular one, and then robotics as well. With virtual reality, I found, as Tammy, very similar to what you said, we could go on virtual field trips, and then it did say that what the students were producing, they had more like in-depth like writing, or you could tell that there was more thought put into it because of the experience. I think overall it's just going to help our kids and like stay engaged and to want to be part of it and want to learn. And then robotics I found was really, really interesting too. Basically robots or automatic machines, if you will, can be in the classroom and serve as teacher aides essentially.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And then it does say like those kind of robots can facilitate learning as well, so the teacher has more time, I guess, to work with the other students. And then facial recognition is another one, how it's kind of tracking the student progress and data, and and you can use this all throughout their education. And then another part of that was I really like the idea of having robots actually teach like chronically ill kids, or if they're isolated in the hospital. I found that to be like really interesting, and I thought that was actually something pretty cool, because the kids are still going to get a really good education. If you're using robots, they'll still get the same education that a kid going to school would get. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Definitely very interesting reading.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was. They even say like one downfall was like there was no emotional connection with the robots. So
I was just going to say the interaction, like the relationships, which is so important, especially because I'm in early childhood. So when you're teaching young children, forming relationships is so important on how those children learn. And it makes me question, if you could use a robot, are children be able to form those connections with, with a robot? I don't know. Who knows what it will look like in 20 years.
Right.
True. I don't know.
Like anything's possible now.
Yeah, that's true.
For sure. Yes, I really liked this week's reading. I thought they were pretty cool. They were really interesting to learn about, and actually kind of made me want to like do some more research on some of these.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies. Well, good talk. Nice to see everybody.
Cool. Anybody have anything else to add?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
We're good.
Cool. Okay. Talk to you guys next time.
Okay, see you.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
All right.